Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is MUIN bin Abdul Aziz. So today we're gonna present about occupational safety and health. So our group consists of 5 team members: MUIN bin Abdul Aziz, HAFIY bin FADZIL, Amin bin ZAHRAN, ISKANDAR bin RIDZUAN, HAKIM bin KASIM. So the study was separated by 4 parts. And the first part, part A, is MUIN bin Abdul Aziz. Part B is given to Amin bin ZAHRAN. Part C is given to HAKIM bin KASIM. Part D, ISKANDAR bin RIDZUAN and HAFIY bin FADZIL. So this is our Assistant Safety Health Officer, Muhammad Ilya bin Hisham, 26 years old. So the study was conducted by interviewing him all the questions that we have. So currently he works at GeoWorks Senjaran Berhad. So GeoWorks Senjaran Berhad, specialist contractor in geotechnical piling and foundation works. It was built in 2011 and then located at MOHD. So we're moving to part A. So part A is about facilities, which is facilities is steps to avoid or prevent any accident to occur. So the first one is first aid. So first aid is important kit that every company must have, and then the first aid kit will be audited every month. Next one is personal protective equipment, or known as PPE. So PPE is the lowest hierarchy in the risk control system. Most of the companies selected this method because it is cheap, and then compared to the above hierarchy, which is elimination, mechanical risk control, and management risk control. So next one is working at height. So existing legislation in Malaysia does not provide specific definition to work at heights. And then next one is excavation. Contractor has legal obligation under Part 12 of the Factories and Machinery, which is FMA, building operations and works of engineering construction, OWEX, regulations to manage the risk associated with the excavation work, including trenches. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Amin bin ZAHRAN, and I will be presenting about the hazards that are present in GeoWorks project KMP5 site. There are 4 types of hazard that are present, which is mechanical, physical, electrical, and ergonomic hazard. First of all, for mechanical hazard, the machine that will be in focus is the impact hammer machine, also known as piling machine. The hazard that are present is that the equipment of the piling machine may be faulty, such as a broken or defective safety latches. So what can happen is that the machine may fall and topple and cause severe injury to nearby workers. What can be done is to implement administrative control, where supervision must be trained and implemented at all times to prevent accidents from occurring. Another hazard that may be present is that the operator of the machine may not be aware of nearby workers, and what can happen is that the machine may injure nearby workers when operated too closely to unsuspecting workers. So what can be done is to isolate the location of the operation to prevent unsuspecting workers from getting injured. Next up is electrical hazards. So as can be seen, electrical hazards is very common where the wires are exposed, and what can happen is that nearby workers may suffer from electrical shock that can be severe. What can be done is implement administrative control, where the exposed wires are isolated and organized at a safe spot. For physical hazards, the hazards that are present in the site is exposed metal rods at construction site, and it may be very dangerous to workers if the workers happen to trip and fall onto the rods, where serious injury may occur. And as can be seen in the picture is that the location of the hole is exposed and there are no warning signs to warn other workers, and unsuspecting workers may trip and fall and serious injury may occur. And what can be done is to implement the use of warning signs and to alert other workers to prevent accidents from happening. And lastly, for ergonomic hazard is when a worker does the same job repeatedly and with wrong tactics or body posture. What can happen is that the worker may suffer from long-term back and joint injury that may be permanent, and the worker may also suffer from posture problems later in life. One way to prevent workers from suffering posture and joint injury is to practice proper body posture before doing physical labor and to frequently switch between workers throughout the whole operation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is IZRUL HAKIM bin KASIM and I will present part C, which is the procedures and activities in the event of emergency. Event of emergency is a situation that poses immediate danger to health, life, property, or environment. It could be a small injury or cut to losses of lives, material, environment, or economy. Total elimination is not an option, so countermeasure steps are needed to reduce the risk. GeoWorks has emergency procedures for major injury or accident, fire explosion, landslide or structure collapse, evacuation, and major chemical spillage. First, major injury or accident flow. Any person at the scene must report the emergency situation with information such as the location, current situation, and type of emergency to the person in charge, such as the security guard, the project manager, or the site supervisor. The emergency commander must then initiate ERP, which is the emergency response plan, and notify the ERT members, which is the emergency response team, to carry out their duties. First aider must provide first aid treatment to injured victims and contact hospital and arrange for ambulance service and contact the police if required. When the situation is beyond control, emergency response marshal must contact appropriate agency to respond to the situation. When necessary, hand over the control of operation to external agency. I've put a note down below to describe the meaning of behind every colors, which is the orange is for any person at the scene, red for emergency commander, and blue for emergency response marshal. Next, for fire and explosion, any person at the scene must notify people of the surrounding area by shouting fire. He must then report the situation to the person in charge. Then, emergency commander must initiate ERP and notify ERT members to carry out their duties. Any person at the scene must try to extinguish the fire with the nearby portable fire extinguisher. Then, emergency coordinator must contact bomber and notify the police and hospital to arrange ambulance service if required. If the situation is out of control, initiate evacuation if necessary. For landslide and structure collapse, any person at the scene must report the situation to the person in charge. Emergency commander must then initiate ERP and notify ERT members to provide first aid and carry out their duties. If there are any trapped victims, emergency coordinator must notify the emergency response marshal to arrange search and rescue. Emergency coordinator must then contact bomba, police, and hospital for ambulance service. If necessary, initiate evacuation process. Then, if the situation is beyond control, emergency response marshal must contact appropriate agency to handle the situation. For evacuation, emergency commander must assess the need for evacuation when the fire alarm has started. They must notify the emergency response marshal the need for evacuation. Next, the emergency response marshal must evacuate all personnel and workers from the building and direct them using safe access to gather at the assembly area. The emergency response marshal must then allow personnel and workers to bring along essential work records, documents, and belongings if necessary. At the assembly area, roll caller must ensure all personnel and workers assemble according to their departments. They must then carry out hit count and maintain control of the crowd and assembly area. Roll caller must remain at the assembly area until further order from the emergency commander. Then, if the situation is safe, emergency coordinator must give the order to release all personnel and workers to return to work area or disperse them from the assembly area. Lastly, for major chemical spillage, after reporting the emergency situation to the person in charge and initiate ERP and notify ERT members, the emergency commander must cordon off the area. The emergency response marshal must evacuate all personnel and workers from the vicinity of the accident. Then the emergency coordinator must locate the source and stop the spillage. They must then contain the spillage from spreading into the grounds or nearby points. For major spillage, emergency response marshal must engage external emergency response organization to contain, stop and clean the spillage. They must treat the waste as a scheduled waste. Lastly, emergency commander must notify the authorities and interested parties such as bomba, ambulance, client, consultant and neighbors. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad HAFIY bin FADZIL, and today I would like to talk about OSH, Management System and Enforcement of OSH Practice at Worksite. Okay, first of all, what is OSH? OSH actually is related to health, safety and welfare issues in the workplace. OSH also includes a law, standard and program that are aimed at making the workplace better for workers. So the enforcement of OSH that have been applied by GeoWork actually is a company that we are chosen for this group assignment is to meet the required safety needed in a construction site that includes all elements of activities and operation carried out at this department. Okay, next. Daily routine enforcement of OSH at site. So, as usual, for the daily safety briefing, actually is a brief discussion about the health and safety threats and risks that workers may experience during the working hour. Safety briefing can also be used to ensure that personnel obligate the procedures and instruction given by the supervisor. So for the routine enforcement is the implementation of 5S. 5S can be deployed in a shop, repair vehicle, secant, or even worksite toolbox for building enterprises. Any space where production tools are housed and often used can benefit from this method. Okay. For the policy of OSH management, actually policy is the first component of an ideal management system. Through planned and methodical work procedures, GeoWorks committed to implementing and maintaining a safe and healthy working environment for all workers. Example of the policy actually is to protect, conserve, and improve the environment in all of its operation and decision making. And second is to incorporate environmental management principle in its corporate strategy, planning, and implementation. Last but not least is a safety procedure. Safety procedure is very important whenever you are working in a construction site because accident or injuries for construction site can be categorized into various situations. Safety procedures are important to ensure that both employees and visitors are safe. So example of the accident is fall from height and fire accident. How to prevent this thing from happening? So for the fall from height is actually use railing or select proper PPE or inspect the PPE first before you are using it or use proper equipment. And also for the fire accident is to ensure electrical system and appliance are handled by experienced authorized person only. With that, I thank you.
Hi, my name is ISKANDAR and I will continue about occupational safety and health management system and enforcement of occupational safety and health practice at worksite. Awareness and training programs are very important, especially for construction site employees because they are exposed to many hazards. The safety training provides knowledge to employees on how to prevent any unwanted accident. In the table, you can see a few examples of awareness and training programs such as held a meeting with Safety and Health Committee, emergency evacuation drill, and COVID-19 social distancing training. All this is to help employees to be prepared whenever any accident happens. Next is the inspection procedure. Construction projects involve a large number of people, material, and equipment. Regular inspection is a very important part of a construction site to ensure that the work progress is as intended for both quality and compliance. Inspection will be carried out for various purposes throughout the duration of a project. Inspection of the construction works is carried out to verify the requirement of the contract document.
The inspection can be categorized into 3 categories, which are before, during, and after. For before category, it mainly focuses on checking everything before starting the operation. During the operation, the inspection focusing on the well-being of the employee. And lastly, after the operation, inspection was carried out to check on the equipment for any damage. Next, we have the application of PPE. We can see here all of the PPE needed for a construction site employee. First, we have the helmet to protect the head from falling object. Next, we have an earplug for noise protection. Next is chap pen to prevent damage on leg. Next, we have safety boot to prevent fall and spiky object on the floor. Next is harness for anyone involved with height. Next, the glove for hand protection against electric, hot object, sharp object, and many more. Next is the high visibility vest, and lastly, safety goggle to protect the eye from debris and such. Lastly, the notification, warning, or emergency system. A construction site involves many employees, thus communication is very important to ensure the safety of employee. Here we can see a list of signage used on the construction site. First, we have the mandatory sign in blue, where it is mandatory to do to the action on the specific area. Next, we have the prohibition sign in red, where an action is not allowed in that area. Next, the warning sign comes in yellow, where it warns people about the possible hazard on the area. Next, we have the danger sign, where it could be a life-threatening hazard on the area. And lastly, we have emergency exit sign to indicate the emergency exit on the site. That's all from us. Thank you.